Hello, 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 hello. I am doing this portion of our presentation using Google Hangouts on Air. And if you have questions about using Google Hangouts on Air to create an online video or a lesson, you can ask me at the end of this part because I will not answer you via video. Can't do it, won't do it. So I'm just going to go down the line and show you the stuff I want to show you for the consumption section of this presentation. Some of them are going to be cheap plugs. Some of them are going to be good stuff that you can use in the classroom. The first thing is a cheap plug. This is Symbaloo. I like Symbaloo.com. I use it as my homepage when I log in. It's my homepage for each browser. Every time someone tells me about a new site, hey, have you checked out Mad Money? I say no, and then I stick it on my Symbaloo, and if I can view it at that moment, I do. If I can't, I leave it there and I look at it later because it's my homepage, so I always see it. I try to organize everything by color. I've got social studies over here in orange. I've got English language arts in white, science in green. I also can organize by tabs. This is Allie's tab. Allie is my stepdaughter, so you've got Pinterest on here. She's got Vantage. She's got Cool Math. These are all her sites, so they stay on her tab. I also set my husband up with a tab, because then I can throw little tiles on here to answer questions that he always asks, like, when are early release dates? Well, here's the Volusia County Schools calendars. This is where the answer is going to be. This is my main one, like for home, and then here's my main one for school. Symbaloo.com, S-Y-M-B-A-L-O-O. Moving on, that was the cheap plug. Consumption. How do you get the information and the lessons in their head? I have started to use games a whole lot this past year. I went to a symposium where they talked about using games as formatives, and I did not know about this section of BrainPOP. BrainPOP is normally a mostly paid site, but they do have a section on their homepage called, let's go to it, Game Up. It sits right here, Game Up. So I saved Game Up on my Symbaloo because I like Game Up. What Game Up is a collection of online games that are correlated with Common Core standards, Florida standards too, technically. And it's not necessarily just made by BrainPOP, but rather it's a bunch of online vendors that made free games, and they're basically using BrainPOP to advertise their games and get more traffic that way. So if let's just do science real quick. You see here's a giant list of games, and like I said, these are not all BrainPOP games. They come from a ton of different vendors. This list was intimidating until somebody kind of showed me a shortcut. If you go to BrainPOP's website, BrainPOP.com, and you click right here where it says standards, you can be wowed and amazed, and you can be happy like me. Click your state, click the subject, we'll say science, click the grade level, we'll say 4th grade, and submit. What they do is they list all the standards here. These are next gen, so they're not up to date necessarily with the Common Core ones, but much of it overlaps, I found, when I'm looking stuff up. And I know when they were making the curriculum ups, they found a lot of similarities. It tells you the BrainPOP activity that correlates with it, but you see here below there, it also can, if there is a game that correlates with that standard, it tells you the Game Up game that correlates with that standard, and so you could legitimately open it and play it. How I've been using games this year, I've been playing them to understand the relevance, obviously, and then I've been taking screenshots, and if you need to know how to take a screenshot, you can ask me after the presentation. I'll take a screenshot of my score, and then I'll write a sentence or two underneath the score saying, first I did this, then I did this, I found this part hard, I found this part easy, and kind of gave a summary like I was posting online, like on an online forum, about how my experience with the game, and then I make it public to my kids, and I'll post it up for them, and I'll ask for them to try to beat my score. And if they can't beat my score, they just write down, similar to what I wrote, a summary of their experience. If they do beat my score, I want tips. These kids are used to going online and finding cheats on forums and on YouTube and stuff like that. So this is a language that they're already used to. And if they're using that language in an academic context, it's actually an easier transition. So you can go online and find all the data on using games as formatives. It's pretty interesting, and they respond to it very well. And I totally use it against them. I'll say, "Oh, so and so got to level 8. What level are you on?" Yeah, you might want to go home and work on that. Yeah, because at least I got to 7. I don't know about you. And it's fun. It's a fun language to start initiating in your classroom. So yeah, so Game Up is wonderful. I recommend Guts and Bolts. This one correlates with learning the systems of the body. I also used Reach for the Sun, and my eyes are failing me right now because I don't see it, but it's on this page. Reach for the Sun. They have to make a fruit or make a sunflower, and you have to follow all the tips and the guides and stuff to do that. And they're used to that. When you learn a new game, a new video game, they give you little tips. Press B to do this. Do this combo of buttons to do this. So if you use that language with them, they do respond quite nicely. If you say, listen to the tips, they're going to get you by. They're going to help you beat your teacher. Also, using online textbooks this year. I've used quite a bit of online textbooks. I'm going to start here with the science one, and I know a lot of you already use the science one in the classroom for guided lessons. Some of you might not. It's thinkcentral.com, and again, if you have any questions about the specific sites that I'm using, we can ask that after the presentation. But I have to switch my screen share now on the Google Hangout. Hey! Nice to see ya. Let's switch the screen share real quick. Nope. Press the wrong button. There it is. There you go. I like this so much because some of my kids are sitting at home and they don't get to do the fun interactive lessons like you guys do in your classroom. So I like these for the virtual labs. I do use I use all the lessons that match up with the standards listed in the map, but I specifically really dig in deep when it comes to these virtual labs. The virtual labs are super fun, and they make the kids actually do the science. Some kids, even though you do interactive labs, they might sit back and not do as much because they're shy or because they don't understand the concept. But if you have them in here in a virtual lab where no kid is going to make fun of them, no teacher's going to notice necessarily, I think that they kind of buy in more. I'm skipping past the instructional slides, but just be aware that there's slides that lead them to it. Here's some early questions to help them check their understanding, physical change. And yes, they can skip past that, but what will probably be rich for you is the conversation after they do these sort of interactive labs online. Here you go. I'll turn the sound on. I'll try to turn the sound on. That's what I'll do.
In the Make a Prediction box, provide your answer to whether temperature will affect the reaction of yeast. Include your thoughts on how temperature might affect the reaction. When you are finished, click OK.
Now
what is your prediction?
Sorry.
Do you think temperature affects the chemical reaction of yeast? And if so, how?
Now this I just got a little upset with because I use this as practice and not necessarily how I get my data from my kids. But when I wanted to use this for data this year, I found out that these answers right here do not get sent to my teacher account for data. So that is a drawback of this site. I did teach some of my 4th graders how to take screenshots of their answers and paste them in a Word document. Again, if you want to know how to do that, I can show you after.
Let's see if your answer is correct with an experiment.
Sure.
Start by making a plan for your experiment on the next screen.
Will do.
In this experiment, Follow the directions to carry out the experiment.
They give them directions.
Let's start with flask A. Use the thermometer to measure the temperature in the flask.
So they get to click and drag and put it and actually do the data collection.
Read the temperature on the thermometer and record it in the table.
So it's flask A, I'll say like 1, 2, I'm going to go 2.
Add 1 teaspoon of sugar to the flask of water. Add 1/2 teaspoon of dry yeast to the flask. Drag a balloon to the mouth of the flask. Click the flask to start.
Okay, so you get the idea. Many of you probably already use this maybe in whole group, but I'm curious if any of you use it in small group. If you're doing any sort of, you're pulling groups, what are your high kids doing? What are your middle kids doing? I think that they would go nuts over this, and if they had to write a response or maybe make an online video of their response, I think that would be an excellent use of you know, your resources, blended learning resources. It's me again. We're going back to that first screen. Another online textbook I use is the LearnTCI.com. It's the 5th grade social studies textbook. K through 4 has a different social studies textbook. I like this because my kids think it's more palatable because they can do this. Wait, turn the sound on.
But the colonists debate over whether they should declare their independence from Great Britain. In this chapter, you will learn about
the robot voice is not my favorite. What is my favorite are these questions at the end. They often use analogies to help them understand the time frame. They often use great diagrams to help them organize their thoughts. And the kids type their responses right here, and it gets sent to me. So I've got great data that I could use in parent conferences, in PST, problem solving team, PST meetings, etc., etc. Lots of letters to me for me to remember. So this is an awesome site, and I use it quite heavily. It's got flashcards for new vocabulary words. It's got assessments already built in, and I hope you guys use this one too, at least in 5th grade. Here's the K4 site that, honestly, it's my favorite, and I can't wait to start using it more and more with my kids. But the reason I love it is this. Watch.
Yarr! Let one of the most famous or infamous female pirates, Anne Bonny, be your guide for learning about geography and basic map reading.
That's wonderful. It's not a robot voice. It's a man and a woman actually that read with inflection, and you see the red highlight goes as he reads the words, so they follow it. I really feel that it still models good fluency for kids, and I know you want them in text, and you want them reading difficult text, and social studies and science text, but honestly, this is such good content. If it reads it to them, it reads with inflection, it models fluency, I'm happy with it. I'm not going to be upset. It does not have questions at the end like TCI does, but here's what it does have. After they get through all of these sections of reading right here, they can take a test. And then here's many grade levels of tests, because I have many grade levels. Most of you have some or one. You tell them which section to read. They click their answers to the test, and based on how successful they are, they get coins. And with their coins, they can use it on their RevRat. This is the RevRat. He's the class pet. So if you pass the test and you get lots of coins, or points, they use points in this case, you can buy stuff. Like I've bought this big screen TV for my class pet, and I can continue to switch this out, and I can buy more things. I could, oh, this is empty right here. So I can choose to buy a bean bag, that's 20 points. I could choose to buy an Oriental Ottoman. They let you personalize the class pet's cage based on how well you do on the tests. And that's super duper motivating for pretty much every kid that I've put in here thus far. So that's online textbooks. I use those a lot, a lot, a lot. The last thing that I want to talk about is Prezi, P-R-E-Z-I. I want to show you one of my Prezis that I used during the symposium. Hopefully it works. Yeah. Hello. Oh, it doesn't show it wonderfully, but it kind of shows it. There we go. It's like PowerPoint, but bigger and more wonderful. Some of you've probably already heard of it, but the transitions are really fun. You can zoom in on a photo that you use for it. I think the kids in the classroom might like the variety of using something different. You see how if there's something awesome that you want them to pay attention to, you can zoom in on it. You can add media to it. I'll show you that. You can blast out to other websites, same as PowerPoint. Here's the media.
Hey there, folks. My name is Jim Storms.
Ha 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 ha. That's another Google Hangout that I made. I use them to introduce topics or show them what I expect when they're making their own Google Hangout for a project. But yeah, so that's a way that you as a teacher could get them to consume information. Another way that you could get them to consume information is you could have them make a Vokey. This is an example of production, but I think it's still fun, so I'm going to try to click on it. Yeah, it worked good. One of my kids produced her knowledge in a Vokey. You as a teacher could put a lesson in a Vokey or an introduction to a lesson in a Vokey, V-O-K-I, and show them how to do it or give an example of what a good Vokey might look like. 30-second Vokeys are free. Just so you know, if you want to make longer ones, you got to buy a subscription. I don't have a subscription right now.
When looking at the weather to determine the forecast, scientists look at air pressure. If there's higher pressure, it will be sunny and damp. Nice.
So Vokey.com, I let my kids turn stuff in using Vokeys, but I have also made Vokeys as examples for them. I've also made Vokeys as introductions to lessons. Vokeys are a pretty robust resource that I'll talk about later on too. I think that's all I have to talk about. We will go in deeper if you have any more questions after this. But yeah, that's a long video about a lot of stuff showing you how to get them to consume the knowledge that you want them to consume using an online resource. That's all. Thank you.